So full time here at Ibrox Stadium, Rangers 1, Jablonec 0. Rob, your thoughts on the first half, which was one of frustration. I don't think the boos were necessary at half time. I didn't think it was that bad that boos were necessary. I just think it lacked the little bit of quality in the final third, and I think that's basically where we were.
Aye, absolutely. We kind of huffed and puffed and controlled the game. There was a few really good chances that we had in that first half. I think the boos were a bit of an overreaction, probably more frustration at the kind of scoreline rather than the performance. Jablonec offered very, very little.
Hold on a wee second.
Aye, so Jablonec didn't really offer much going forward, but we had three probably really decent chances in that first half. That if you take them, then the difference is the crowd are a bit more settled and you don't get that reaction at half time. I think the one thing that it definitely brings home is that quality in the final third. We're still lacking that wee bit, but lots of good things to take away tonight. Gassama, another really, really good performance, especially in that first half. He was
dangerous.
He was the bright spark. He looks an exciting player when he's getting the ball at the moment. Far cry from the back end of last season. Penrice again, that left back position, loads of effort. I thought Dan Neil did really well in that half, controlling the tempo and controlling the ball a little bit. So, while it was frustrating, we went in at nothing each. It wasn't the disaster that the reaction suggested.
Yeah, I think when you think about the chances in the first half, first of all, Penrice double save, then Dragicevic was just wide on the right hand side, then Dragicevic hits inside of the post. And then we have one that whipped straight across the face of goal, which Nadiri should have been on the end of. We could have scored 3 in that first half. Now, we didn't, and it lacks that little bit of quality. We know that it's a repeating record. I also felt like Yokota in the first half was maybe just slightly isolated too much, and he was doubled up on it. We couldn't get him into the game, and he is a 60-minute man at the moment, fitness-wise. So I do agree with you. I thought Jerry Gassama was excellent. I thought he took his man. He tried to install that wee bit of confidence, but also felt at times that Dragicevic started in a position where he was really high up, and so did Chukwani. So when we lost the ball, they were getting too much space. Then in the second half, Dragicevic sat back and Chukwani held, but Dragicevic fell right out of the game. So maybe he was better being the one that was pushed up and Chukwani sitting. I don't know if that really worked. But the second half, we start quite brightly, and in that moment where we do take the lead, there's a lovely moment. Daniel floats it to the back post, Yokota's on it. He nods it down. Nadiri takes an absolute age, doesn't he, to finish? And at that point, 1-0, 50 minutes, right, you're thinking, good, everyone will settle down. This isn't a good team we're playing. Hopefully we come forward and get a few more or whatever. And we do. We start knocking about. We start creating that Gassama chance is a moment, Rob, isn't it? It should be 2-0.
Absolutely. He's kind of got to put that away. Again, we'll be able to watch it back, and I think a couple of people are saying it's actually sitting up a wee bit higher than we probably anticipated. Chance. But it's almost an empty net, a really important tie. That's when you need your players to step up from a quality standpoint and kind of stick the ball away in the back of the net. Apart from that, he had a really good game, but then it turns when Cammy Devlin comes on and then gets sent off. That leaves us with them having the extra man. We lose control of the game, and it really is at that point backs against the wall. And I think that's where Big McCania tonight really stood up. He was excellent in the centre of that defence and rightly got man of the match. Before Neil went off, I would have said it was between him and McCania, but he looks a really, really solid acquisition at the back, and certainly puts Manny Fernandez's place up for grabs when Ben Godfrey is fit again for the second leg. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Derek McInnes does with that, because I think McCanya's given him a bit of a headache in that position now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think at the moment where Devlin goes off, we are all in the crowd thinking the way it looked from the gantry was almost like he had twisted and been caught and spun round. So we all automatically thought this is a penalty shout. The crowd were cheering, they're up for it. So he comes back on, he gives a sign, and you're like, quid's in. But he doesn't point, and you're going, what's happening here? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, out comes a red card, and you're just like, what is that for? We're bemused about it. Devlin's playing innocent as he would. Then you see the replay, and he's actually, as we think he's been spun, he's actually put his leg knee high into the ball. He deserves to go. It is a red card. And it's really one of those ones where in the crowd, 35,000 in tonight, and we're completely bemused because nobody knows what's happening. If there was a wee bit of, red card check or whatever, then you're wondering what's going on. But aye, it was one of those ones. And then for the remaining 15 minutes, Rangers saw it out really well until the very last minute where they took us apart a wee bit and the boy fired over. I don't think they have. Or what I will say is, I don't think tonight they showed any real quality. They'll be different at home, right? I get that, but Rangers should have more than enough to go over there and score a goal or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is we've got a week to prepare for it now. You know, the McInnes is going to have a lot of time with the players on the training pitch to be able to set up that game plan for when we do go over there. Unfortunately, even if we bring players in, we're not going to be able to add them to the squad. So it's going to be interesting to see how we do eventually set up when we're going over there. But tonight we showed that we had real quality. There was some real moments of really good play for Rangers. It's just about doing it for more than 5 or 10 minutes a half. We need to be seeing that for 15, 20 minutes a half. And when we create the chances, it's about taking them. You know, Nadiri got on the score sheet tonight, which is really good. I thought his performance towards the end and the way that he kind of put the effort in helped us to settle the team down a wee bit. But that chance in the first half, you're wanting your striker to bust in and just get on the end of that ball, and that's a goal all day long. Now, it's 2-2 for him. Hopefully that's going to give him confidence so that he can use it as a bit of a launch pad. But it's really up to the players, like McKinnon said about Manny Fernandez. It's got to come for them to show the improvement week on week to make sure that we are seeing these games out a little bit better than we are just now.
Yeah, the football for Gassama chance was worthy of a standing applause. I think that was at the moment the way that Nadiri worked it. I think with Chukwani, he kind of played the 1-2 and then Nadiri's in. He had Gassama aim for, he picks him out wonderfully. The only slight thing is it's coming at him really fast. It's slightly high. Could he get over it? He probably, as I said on commentary up there, he probably got too flush of contact on it. If he had hit it off his knee or it might have ended up going in, but he catches it so flush and it just goes right over. And that was such a shame. At 2-0 at that point, it really would have been, Rangers would have went on, I feel. To get to unfortunately have that red card meant the last 15 minutes we were managing it as best as possible. But for Rangers, it's job done. We go into the second leg with a lead and we should be confident over there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just about scoring goals. You know, we've got to make sure that we do that in this away leg. We would probably have to do that anyway, just to make sure of the tie. I think McInnes hopefully has seen enough tonight to be able to kind of see what works and what doesn't work. The midfield three makes us look a bit stronger, I think, Stevie. You know, I think Chukwani playing a little bit higher up the pitch is beginning to impact games a wee bit more. I thought Dan Neil was pretty good, but we've got to find a way of being able to get Dragicevic up there as well, because he looks a real danger for the edge of the box. And
still finding fitness as well, isn't he? So
exactly.
70 minutes, he came off and you're thinking, okay, but at that point you should rely on Devlin coming in, but he just makes a rash challenge, doesn't he? But do you know what? It's a lead, it's another victory. We keep building and you take the positives out of it. Penrice looks really good. Gassama looks really good. I think in midfield you're starting to see some patterns of play. I thought Sterling, despite the fact he looks again in first gear, was really quite solid and very good. Macanya's the star find of the night. I thought Macanya was excellent. Pandur very solid. There's lots of little bits. It needs star quality to knit it all together. That's what it needs. It needs that extra player that's going to be able to bring them out of it. That see in the first half, if we're not quite getting there, you give it to the star man and he does something. That is what I feel we're missing. Rumours about I think South Korean lad, isn't there? They're coming in £8-9 million, and that's a lot of money. So, where's he going to feature? How's that going to change the dynamic and stuff like that? So, there's a lot still to do. There's still a lot to happen. I'll take 1-0, Rob, and just move on to next week. Would we want more? Yes. I felt like it was a performance that we were completely in control of and should have been more aggressive in the final third in the first half. We weren't. It meant it was 0-0. At 1-0, you want them to kick on. They do kind of kick on, but then the changes had to be made because of, I think, the fitness, but it didn't really work, did it? And then ultimately, red card meant you're hanging on for 15. But they get the result. We're 1-0. We have something to defend over there. And let's go and do it next week.
Absolutely, and hopefully the clean sheet gives the defence a wee boost, Stevie. Ultimately, we
defended well.
Yeah, we did. And as much as I criticised Fernandez early in that first half, he actually grew pretty well into that game. And I think second half, him and Macanya showed just what a defence they could be, much more solid, communicating a little bit better. And when there was danger, he did the simple thing and just cleared it and put it out the pitch. He wasn't trying to take a touch. He wasn't trying to play for the back. It was just simply clear the danger, get back into position and defend again, and that's all we can ask for him.
Yeah, so 1-0 Rangers on the night, folks. You'll see Rob and I's reaction to everything on the gantry tomorrow at 10 a.m. That'll be uploaded. And yeah, we take the win and on we go. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. Rangers do win by 1-0, and it's onwards to check next week.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is sponsored by Athol Industrial Solutions, Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, Elite Scooter Scotland, and Metaclad, Four Lads' exclusive roofing partner. The Aesthetics Lounge by Sharon, Denhay, the quintessential British bacon. Thank you to our sponsors and also to our partners, Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.